Okay, episode 2 of 3 in our Memorial Day weekend podcast release. So, in this episode, I am going to read to you a little short piece that a friend of mine sent my way, his Memorial Day weekend message, and honor 3 people that he wanted to be honored this Memorial Day. And then Johnny and I talked to Dr. Kevin Kirk, who is an orthopedic surgeon down in San Antonio, Texas. He and Johnny worked together while Johnny was at the Center for the Intrepid. And Dr. Kirk just has a nutty story or two to tell y'all. And we didn't want this whole episode these podcasts to be just somber all the time. And so we wanted to try to mix in just some nutty stories to entertain you a little bit, but also to maybe give you a bit of perspective on what some of our service members do day in and day out, regardless of their occupation within the military. So anyhow, this message I have here is from a friend of mine growing up. His name's Will Cuellar. Will was a year behind me in school, so we grew up playing sports together, especially like basketball and baseball. Will went on to serve in the Marine Corps, I believe, right out of high school. I'm not sure what rank or title that he held. I do know at some point he was a drill instructor. So there's that. I don't know if he was part of the Hollywood Marines out in San Diego or he was part of the real Marines that Zach went through out on the East Coast. I don't get into that stuff. Those things are... It's about like the abbreviations within the military. Kind of goes over my bald head. At any rate, wanted to just... I had reached out to Will because I thought, he might have some people that he would allow me to honor on this podcast. And so he sent me a message that it's out there publicly. He put it out there just a couple days ago, and he just directed me to this message, and I told him that I would read it. So I'm going to read it basically verbatim what he said. His words are better than mine could be, that's for sure. So he starts off by saying, my Memorial Day weekend message, and I was struck immediately by the inclusion of weekend. You oftentimes just hear Memorial Day, but this is really more of a weekend celebration. It's kind of encompasses Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in many circles. So I was struck by that initially. And he says, this is what we do. We honor the dead. There were many that didn't make it back to the homeland alive during this war and others. Today, we enjoy our time because of their ultimate sacrifice. Though I've chosen to speak publicly or to share publicly this Memorial Day weekend about 3 Marines, that does not undermine all the others who have paid the ultimate price with their lives to give us the freedoms that we have. He says, that's why my motto is, it's not about you. So today and throughout the weekend, I will have a few drinks for my brothers and sisters that could not be here. And I want to extend my highest gratitude to the Gold Star families and others that are not fortunate to have their hero home with them. Giving a loved one a flag as a token of appreciation for service and sacrifice is not an easy task, and I've felt firsthand the pain that families go through. I and many of my Marines have experienced this act. Today, Monday, is for them. I honor the fallen very seriously, and I know they are high above looking down and telling me to have a drink for them. May you rest in peace, Marines, and all service members who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I've buried many servicemen, but I take this moment to speak about these 3. Staff Sergeant Jordan Phillips died March 23, 2003, in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, just shortly after completing his duty as a Marine drill instructor. I was a drill instructor at the time of his death, so it really hit home. He had just left the drill field months prior. Pictured, this is associated with some pictures on Will's Facebook page. He says, pictured, I'm pointing at Staff Sergeant Phillips's name on a memorial at Strawberry Park in Pasadena, Texas. Strawberry Park in Pasadena, Texas is a big park, just literally just right around the corner from my house, and a very very just well known kind of place where kids always played sports and whatnot down in Pasadena. So I know exactly where Will's talking about. This Staff Sergeant Jordan Phillips had played football at Clear Creek High School and had to wait until the age of 27 to join the Corps after a battle with Hodgkin's disease. So that's number one. The second person that Will would like to honor is First Sergeant Chris Carlisle. Retired March 4th, 2016 with 2 Purple Hearts for being wounded in action in Iraq and Afghanistan. He died a year later on August 18th, 2017 during a Warrior-built motorbike event. He and Will attended drill instructor school together and competed on the drill field for the highest drill scores. When he left the island, he was the record holder for drill. Will says he spent many evenings with this hero. Third is Sergeant Matthew Tafoya, died June 21st, 2014. He was the last Marine that died during my service of 20 years. I retired a year later. During his last year, he spearheaded efforts in collecting over 20,000 toys in support of Toys for Tots for the South Texas sector and giving the kids toys that they didn't expect to receive as Christmas presents. Then Will says, just 3 of many stories. Honor the dead. They died for us. It's that simple. We owe their loved ones that gratitude. So you won't hear me say some crap about not having a good time this weekend. These 3 warriors would want me, like many others, to enjoy the weekend and pay respects. Rest in peace, Marines. You kept us safe and provide us with the freedoms we have during day-to-day simple tasks. Please enjoy the weekend and have fun. The legacy lives on. Very respectfully, Raider 8. Thanks, Will, for sending that my way. I appreciate it, and I'm honored to be able to share the stories of those Marines on our podcast. Now we're gonna kick it over to a little transition, like a little noise from Jimmy McKay that he made for us, and then we'll get to Johnny and myself talking to Dr. Kevin Kirk.
Welcome to another Owen Jacoby Science Podcast. This is our Memorial Day special series. Kyle threw out several weeks ago that I think we should do something special for Memorial Day since we've kind of had a close tie with the military. And so I said, well, I know a lot of military people, and so I just want to bring on all my friends. And so today I've got a good friend, Lieutenant Colonel, right? Retired Lieutenant Colonel?
Retired Lieutenant Colonel, yeah.
Retired Light Colonel, orthopedic surgeon extraordinaire, foot and ankle surgeon, Dr. Kevin Kirk. He's sick of this joke, but when I met him, he was Captain Kirk at one time. And so I'm sure he never wants to hear that one again. But anyways, we worked together at Brooke Army Medical Center pretty much almost the entire time, I think. When did you get there, Kevin?
07.
07, okay. So I was 5, and then we kind of both transitioned away around the same time. And so as a foot and ankle guy, Kevin was just seeing tons and tons of combat casualty because the lower leg was one of the most injured regions on the service member's body. Lots of salvage, lots of great foot and ankle cases, and unfortunately lots of amputations. But we worked closely together, and it was an honor. So Kevin, good to have you on, man.
Appreciate it. And
so now, just to plug it, you're still here in San Antonio. You're with the biggest orthopedic group we have, TSAOG, the empire that Burkhart built. And so give us a little bit of what you're doing now and where you're at.
So I retired from the Army in 2013 and actually had a brief reprieve up into Jersey for a year at Rutgers, but had to get back into the heat and the sun, but not so recently, not so much sun down here. But and then so I've been with the group for about 7 years. It's private practice. I started off doing a lot more general than I was doing in the Army, but now kind of whittled the practice back down to like being able to do lower extremity type of work. And so it's been great. We have, a lot of offices throughout the city, and it's been a good team to be part of.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are taking over this entire area. So anyone in San Antonio definitely knows your group, and a lot of rock star surgeons there. And I guess I forgot this too. Your prior background, you went to the dark side because you used to be a physical therapist.
I was. Actually, as I started off as a PT in the Army, actually, and spent my first 3 years at Walter Reed. And it was actually, looking back, it was during the Desert Storm time. And I remember it's like, oh, I missed my opportunity. Like, this is like, I'm going to get out and never see war or combat or anything like that. And then went from there to the Pentagon. I ran they have a little Pentagon clinic there. So I kept that open for a while. And it's always funny because at that point in time, I think it was a lieutenant. And like there's always only colonels and generals at the Pentagon. And coming up the elevator one day, the one colonel said, "Lieutenant, you must be lost because there's no lieutenants that work here in the Pentagon." And so, and then I went to the clinic, but had a lot of, was able to do really cool stuff. A lot of the senior level officers are really genuine gentlemen, and they're older, lighter part of their career. So hopefully been able to help them out. And then went to Tripler for a couple years before, I kind of said I fell on my head, and then 10 short years later, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. So,
yeah. So it's a good choice. You don't miss just slumming away in the clinic as a therapist versus, making the big dollars. I've seen pictures of your house, man. You made the right decision.
Yeah. Well, I remember I went back to Walter Reed for my residency. And I remember we had a 5th floor orthopedic PT clinic, and we had a main one on the 3rd floor. I remember walking past there many times at 5 a.m. saying, "What the hell did I do?" And they're not coming in until 8 o'clock. And I'm here already for 3 hours. Maybe I made the wrong career choice, but no, it's been good. It's been a good after career outside the Army as well. So it's been good.
So Kyle, every now and then, Kevin, if there's any of the crummy cases that I didn't want to see, I'd just say, why don't you just freaking rehab them yourself, PT?
Yeah, and
one-stop shop.
Yeah, and the skills have actually kind of been good because I chose to develop my practice here in San Antonio on some of the, on the south side and west side. So a lot of times people don't have the resources to pay for their copay, and you order the therapy, and they just well, do I really have to? And I go, yeah, you got to do it. But then, we have our exercise handouts and be able to instruct them on some at least basic things so they can kind of keep moving forward. So
nurses come get you on the floors and say, "Hey, Kevin, will you come do a transfer for us real quick?"
Yeah, no, that's fortunately I'm too old for that bad.
Me too. I always was. Cool. Dude, the other story, it just hit me. You were going to try and go airborne first, right? But you were afraid of planes?
No. So I did. I got over the fear of planes. And so I was between my junior and freshman and sophomore year of college, I went, and I'd never been on an airplane before. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. And they said, well, you can go to airborne school. And I go, all right, that sounds good. I'm going to get some, it's like a summer job. It's 3 weeks. I get paid, it shouldn't be. So the first time I was ever on an airplane is when I went to airborne school. And so, and I got up in the plane, I hope I like this. And it wasn't too bad. And then the next 5 times I was in an airplane, I jumped out. And so I got over my fear. It's a 3-week, just kind of run, and then just kind of find out how to flop out of airplanes. But then the thing that I didn't do is I thought I wanted to be an Army Ranger. So I did, I was gung ho, had the airborne, and then spent a summer in Fort Bragg in water up to my chest in a foxhole. And this isn't that much fun. I think I might use that therapy degree and do something with it. So yeah, that was my infantry career. It was getting a little bit sore sitting in water for a while.
And then you just became a wussy therapist. Well, cool, man. So Memorial Day, we're honoring guys like you and all our other veterans and service members. couple stories I remember that always stuck with me is one of them. I think it was your first deployment, and you went to Afghanistan. Everyone was kind of going to Iraq, and as a Scud or something popped in like right when you got there.
Oh yeah. So it was the 759th. So it was like, that was one of the bad things with the airborne tab, is because 759th was the airborne forward surgical team. So I get back down to Fort Bragg, and all the young guys said, "Hey man, we get like an extra $250 if we do a training jump before we leave." And it's like, no. And like, that's like, I'll give you the $250. I'm not going to do it, because at Walter Reed, there's actually a Rumbach Garage. It was like a psychiatrist who wanted to do one of those feel-good jumps with the troops, and he died. And so I'm like, I don't need a garage named after me. And so we get there. You're right. It was like, at that time, I think the surge was going on in Iraq. We were kind of on again, off again. That's a lot of the ways that the deployment orders go. It's like, particularly when you're in the small units, is that they'll say you're going to one place, and then the next week you're going to another place. And so we ended up getting our orders changed from Iraq to Afghanistan. And so Afghanistan is very mountainous. And so there's about 20 people on a forward surgical team, 3 general surgeons and an orthopedic surgeon. And so we split. And so one went down to the southern portion, and we were up on the eastern Afghanistan border, and Organy, but in Paktika Province. And that's where a lot of the Taliban fighters would come from Pakistan to go fight down in Coast Providence and Helmand and things like that. So it was a pretty mountainous area. And I was there with a general surgeon by the name of John O, and a great group of other team members from Fort Bragg. They were all active duty people. So it was cool. And so, yeah, so when we got there, so you fly into Bagram, and then you have to helicopter out to like your forward operating base. And it used to be an SF base. And so it had been kind of like fortified up, but there's a lot of ANA, which is Afghan National Army guys there. And when we first got there, it was the 173rd. They were out of Vicenza, Italy. They were the infantry brigade that was kind of stationed there. And so you're the newbie, so you have to kind of go sit through briefings. This is how things are. And we're in the middle of the orientation briefing, and the XO goes, "This is the end of the briefing, go to the bunkers." And it's like, okay. So it was like kind of eerie, because it's kind of getting to be dark, but all of a sudden you hear like these incoming rockets, and like you're sitting there in the bunker, and like I'm sitting there like, I'm in goddamn Afghanistan. There's no war supposed to be going on here. Why the hell am I sitting here? And then they go, "Oh, the medics building's on fire," because they had a direct hit on our barracks, and it kind of caught fire. And so that got put out, and then we're like, there's a couple ANA guys got hit. We took them back to the aid station. One of the dudes had like a rock that went through his spine. He was dead. And then a couple of them had some boo-boos, but it was like, this is gonna suck. I mean, like, you haven't been here for like 5 days, and it's like the next day our NCOIC had a seizure, he had to be medevaced out, and it's like, this is not going to go well. And it's only 180 days, but it feels like 180 days when you're there, and you count down every day. It's like, man, when can I get out of this place? But yeah, so we moved barracks, and middle of the night, and you're like, all your stuff had like the smoke and dust and stuff like that from being hit. And fortunately, it was our OR nurse who, like, my bunk, like our thing was like right next to each other. First took the direct hit. And, if we would have just been sitting there racking out, it would have been a bad situation. So it was a bad situation, but it could have been a lot worse.
Crazy. Well, I want to get into this story. It's like one of the most amazing stories I've heard. And the one I'm talking about. Kid, was that on this deployment?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like, I was looking, so like a journal, I don't say diary, but I journaled a lot when I was there, because you got some extra time. So it's like, you have like periods of a lot of busyness, and then a lot of periods of working out, and then a lot of periods of just like, this sucks and I just want to go home. And so like I've journaled the experience. And so it was almost toward the latter part of our deployment. It was in March 16th of 06, in which, just kind of a nice day. You're kind of like doing a normal thing, get some food at the dining facility, go work out. And then we got this phone call. And so they're called TICs, like troops in contact. And so you're on the radio and you can hear like when they kind of get shot at. And so basically, because it's so mountainous, they're in this little wadi. And so it was at that point in time, the 173rd kind of moved out, and it was the 10th Mountain was there. And the guys are going down the wadi, and they're in the low ground, and all the bad guys are on the high ground. They just start letting them have it, like RPGs, like small arms fire, and things like that. And so we heard about it, and then they go, oh, there's some casualties, U.S. casualties. And so we got the medevac request, and we said, yeah, we'll take it. And then it ended up being 4. So there's 2 Afghan National Army and then 2 U.S. troops. And the way they do it is you kind of like triage. It's like 2 sorts. So you triage. So you have like either a person is it's kind of minor, they're like the walking wounded, or if they're expected, means that you probably shouldn't waste a lot of resources on them because they're probably going to not make it. And so the one was expectant, and then we had 2 like urgent surgicals, and then the other 2 ANA. So they came, and it's really out in the middle of nowhere, so everything gets medevaced in on the helicopters. And so John O and I went out, and he, being a general surgeon, he triages. Like I take all the people that are yelling and screaming because like, okay, I got it. Airway, breathing, good. Like I don't have to worry about you dying on me, at least not right now. And so take the guys yelling and screaming. And the one ANA guy kind of like lost a lot of his fingers and he had a tourniquet on, and he was like going like this. It's like, dude, that's fine. You can kind of go to the next level of care. The other guy had a gash in his head. And then the other U.S. casualty had, like I hate EMT stuff and things like that, but basically his nose was cut off. And so he goes like this and flops open his nose, like, put that back, just tape it back, But none of those are like, although they need something, they're not something that needs urgent surgery. And then there's like this dude, he was on the stretcher and he had like a shrapnel injury. And so he went back to the aid station, and the other 3 we just said, hey man, they're not, we can't take, it's only like a 1-bed OR. And so like these other guys, they're not going to die from these wounds. They got to move up to the next higher level of care. So I think they went to Salerno or something like that. And so then we do the unwrapping of the package. And the guy's name was Channing Moss. He's a private from like Georgia, and he was like the gunner in the Humvee. And so what had happened is that they were getting shot at from above, and like an RPG is like a big football, and then it has like the propellant, and it has these fins that kind of like guide it through the air. And so he started unwrapping it, and it's like, shit, like this, there's like these fins sticking out of this dude. And it's like, this is not a shrapnel. I was like, what the hell is this? And so we had an x-ray, but the x-ray didn't work. And then finally the x-ray worked. And what had happened is that the big football end, which is kind of like what hits the object and it causes the explosion, which makes the little molten lava that kind of penetrates thing, it kind of broken off. But the M80 portion, like the 5M80, like the thing that kind of causes the explosion, was still inside Moss with these like fins sticking out. And so fortunately, you kind of train for this. But unfortunately, we trained for it before we left, and we failed pretty miserably. So we're sitting there like, oh, this didn't work out well in training. Like this unexploded ordnance thing, like apparently all 3 of us died and stuff like that. It's like, this is not cool. But
what body was it?
So it came in from his left, his down. So the fins were sticking out of his left side. And then the tube went through his abdominal cavity, and the detonator portion was sitting right in front of his right hip. And so we finally got the x-rays, and there's the EOD guys, those crazy like explosive ordnance disposal guys. Fortunately, they were on our fob that day. And they're stationed on our fob, but they're actually in our fob that day. And so we're saying, like, we don't know. We just know that's not supposed to be in this person's body, but like, what the hell is it? And so Dan Brown, who's like, I think at East 7 at that, East 6 or East 7 at that time, he comes in, he looks at it, and he's like all over it. He knows what's going on, right? He goes, oh yeah, this is like this old Russian like RPG. He goes, good news. He goes, like the big football thing, it broke off somewhere along the line. Bad news is you may not bring the building down, but you could lose your hands. And it's like, Jesus, like, Brown, we're surgeons. Like, that's not so cool. He goes, yeah, but I think you're going to be fine.
How'd you guys doing the training? I mean, you're good, right? We got this.
Yeah. I was like, what? This is a Nerf ball, and this animal, and it's just like, who put the Nerf ball in? It's like, throw that out. And it's like, oh, that was an unexploded. I was like, oh shit. Okay. And so, but now we at least knew what we were dealing with. And one of the big things is, and I'm sure that other people who have been on here, and like guys like Ryan and Joe, is that everybody says you're not a hero, you're just doing your job. And that's what we kind of came up with. It's just like, this could go horribly wrong. Okay, we're probably not supposed to do it because these triages are expectant. But it's just like, would we really be doing our job if we didn't try to do something to help this guy? Because he was talking. He talked, and he kind of he faded out. But it's just sort of like, this is our job, so we got to do it. So we took him back, and Dan was there. He had a hacksaw, and so like, in order to get the fins off, he just hacksawed the fins off his left side. So I'm standing on his left side. Johnny O is on the other side, and so Dan hacksaws off the fins. Now we got this big ass tube still in the guy's body, and we're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to take it out now. And so the fin portion was easy because it had a big hole there on the left side. And then John, he exposed through the belly, and then over there kind of opening up above his left thigh, and that's where like the little detonator thing was. And so I remember John. So John said, "Here's what you do, man. He goes, put your hand up in his chest and like put all the pressure you can on his aorta, because if we kind of tear his aorta, it's going to be game over." And so we kind of been able to get it. And fortunately, it was videotaped. And so like, one of the EOD techs was behind Sergeant Brown. So if you ever see the video, is that it's being passed out through his right side where John O was. I'm sitting there with all my hands on his aorta and chest, and it's like, okay. And then it got delivered out. And it's actually weird because it actually took a piece of his belt through his abdomen. And so we have pictures of it, and it was a good thing as we documented, because people say like, no effing way that this ever happened. And it's like, no shit, it did happen. And so had got it out, and then like, we're sitting there like, all right, what the hell do we do now? And so he had a lot of bowel injuries, and but fortunately no major vessel injuries. He had a big ass piece of his pelvis on his left side that was chunked out. But so we washed it out, and basically our job is to kind of pack him up and send him to Bagram. And so he left alive, and then we kind of were able to track him through the system, and he made it back to Walter Reed, and he survived. And one of the best times from that deployment is we actually came back, and I was still stationed at Fort Belvoir in the DC area at the time. And so, John and I both needed some closure. on the whole episode. And it's just like, not to like, hey man, you always, it's just sort of like, we just want to like, hey, how are you? And fortunately I had trained there. So like a lot of the guys who were still attendings there took care of him. So I was able to say, is he good enough to kind of have visitors and stuff? So he got transitioned over to the Fisher House. And so John and I kind of made a trip and went and visited him. It was, he had a wife at the time who was pregnant. So it just sort of like, yeah, I think we did some good that day and just kind of moved on. But I mean, like, I think that, you hear it, it's kind of common. It's like, not a hero, but you work with a company of heroes. And, everybody that day kind of put themselves in jeopardy. But it's just because of the fact that our jobs as surgeons is to do surgery. And if we wouldn't have done it, and we'd have had a guy that somebody wouldn't have on this side, I think that would have been hard to live with. So fortunately, it worked out well for us.
That whole having a pregnant wife when you get there as well. I mean, that just like wraps that story up in a bow. Like, holy hell, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, what was the decision tree with everyone around? Because you had everyone kind of helping you. I mean, even someone filming it. Yeah. Was it like you drew a line in the sand, like, okay, who's willing to lose their hands or whatever? And everyone.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like, we tried to like sit there and everybody. I remember John was clearly the leader of that team, and he said, everybody looked at each other and said, you don't have to do this, but if you want to do it, we're all going to do it together. And if you don't want to go, you don't have to say anything. You can leave right now. Everybody just kept doing their job. And it was just sort of like, you just kind of kept your head down. And it's like, no, this is what we're here for. We'll see how it works out. Yeah. The next day we got a little bit bitched at by our commander. Like, what the hell are you doing? You shouldn't have done that. But it's just sort of like, well, I think that the end result was worth it. So
yeah, that's so military right there. Well, that's when you say, well, we'll just get this kid senator involved.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we always get out of trouble.
Yeah.
Man, that's a crazy, awesome story. Have you talked to him any since or?
No, and like we did like a little follow on when he was still recovering. He got out of the Fisher House, but this is like, gosh, this is a long time. It was like 2006, so it's probably like I haven't seen 2007 or so. Probably like 2007 or so. But then, I kept in touch with John O. I mean, he's a good dude. He's up in Penn State.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, now I was lucky enough to see some of that video that you had, and so it was a crazy thing, man. So, and that's what's wild. Taking an RPG like that and surviving is wild. I mean, there was a kid that we had, a Marine, took an RPG right into his thigh, and took his quad off. He was actually in that 60 Minutes piece we did about regrowing his thigh, but yeah.
Oh wow.
These guys, that's taking a real bullet there when you're freaking taking RPGs with your body.
Oh, for sure. And
like, tell it.
And you were there. I mean, and it's kind of like after we were starting to take a lot more casualties down at Brook, that they're bypassing Walter Reed there for a while after that little expose. But you saw. I mean, like, and the biggest difference for me of being at both Walter Reed and at Brook is the burns. I mean, like, some of those guys, man, that was kind of hard to. But again, a lot of those guys, they just kind of keep trucking along too.
I know. One of them was a friend here in town, and he's more successful than us now.
Yeah,
really burnt guy and Limb Salvage. And I know you.
Yeah, exactly.
Take care of him. So, well, man, that's an awesome story. Thanks for coming on, brother. You miss being back at the base and the military and all of that?
I mean, like, I miss the people.
Yeah.
I mean, like, honestly, I mean, like, there's nothing that's ever going to recreate, what we had at the CFI and the collaboration with surgeons and just like hey man, this is a tough problem. We all got to work at this. I mean, like, I think your work has been outstanding, like, with the VFR, bringing that not only to us, educating us as surgeons, right? But seeing what it could do to kind of really up the level of rehab for these guys that have really kind of injuries that you're never ever going to necessarily see in like civilian practice when you're not at a level 1 trauma. And And even some of, I mean, like, because we did that level 1 trauma there too. And people say, oh, wow, this is really bad. Or I mean, like the funniest thing now for me is it's like when a person comes in and they have like a shattered ankle or tibia, but it's closed, right? And there's no bone sticking out. And they go, is this the worst thing you've ever seen? And I go, I can tell you, no, it's not.
Let me tell you about an RPG story.
Yeah, or just like, hey, yeah, this happens on a guy that doesn't have 2 limbs either. So yeah, and I think that all those type of things and that collaboration. And although our group was great and we have like therapy basically in every office, and so it's always nice to kind of be able to walk down and talk to the therapist, like, hey, this, how are they doing? And like it seems like they're kind of like a little bit slow and getting back to speed and stuff like that. So I think that part of the collegiality and the just solving big problems.
Yeah.
It's the only can see so much plantar fasciitis. And people think this is like the worst thing in the world. It's like you're gonna get better.
It hurts in the morning.
It hurts in the morning. Feels like hot poker. Is like you're gonna do fine. Trust me, you're gonna do fine. I mean, like, and so seeing guys that I remember, I forget his name now, but horrible injury. He had like he had an amputation on one side, like big open tibia fracture, needed soft tissue coverage, and kind of took care of him, and then went on leave for like a week. And Mickey Cho was going to do this big free tissue transfer, and so he did a big lat flap. And so I called the residents, like, hey man, how's like Captain so and so doing? He goes, well, he died. And it's like, what? He goes, yeah, he died on the table, but they're able to get him back. And it's like, okay, how's he doing now? And they go, he's doing fine. And so nobody ever knew why it happened, but he flatlined on the table. So you come back and, he has like the little wounds and he has like a little scab here and there. And he's up and walking and he's like bitching about this scab. And he's like, man, this thing is not like healing over. I'm like, it's going to eventually heal over. And then kept on bitching about it. It's like, bro, I like, you were dead. And like, this is not going to be that bad. And like, you're going to do fine because you died. Now you're here and things are going to be fine. And I think he's one of those guys that got out and went on to like some professional career, like a lawyer or a doctor. And it's just like, yeah, seeing the fortitude of the real soldier, you miss that because like people sometimes just think that their problems are really bad but they haven't seen some of this stuff. So
it was humbling every day. I couldn't walk in with poo-poo face. It was like, yeah, I got to have my game on because these guys and girls aren't showing it. So yeah, I miss it, man. I miss the teamwork. That was just crazy how everyone just came together with a mission. And Kyle, Joe Shu, who we had on the last one, he just constantly got me in trouble. Like he really shook the bushes and really pissed off everyone command-wise. And Kevin always could keep me out of trouble. So Kevin's much more level-headed, easy.
The angel and the devil on your shoulder.
Yeah, she would definitely. So it's funny because when we built, and he'll probably hate me down the story, but like, as our boss was Jim Fickey, who's also a really great guy. He's up at Hopkins now. He's like the chair up there. But we were building a new portion of the hospital, and so the staff had to kind of like consolidate offices. And so Fickey came up and he goes, I think you're the only person that has the temperament to share the office with Joe. And he goes, what do you do? And I go, sure. And like, it actually was like the best year and a half, 2 years, however we had, because he's such a passionate guy about his work and technically very proficient. And, he kind of, he had this saying, he probably went like this, because much rather stab you in the chest than stab you in the back, And so it's like, he was the kind of guy that would punch you in the chest and like make no apologies for it. But I think that with that is he brought the BFR, like the bracing concepts, and really kind of helped a lot of people over time.
Did you ever hear the lights out story with Vicky and?
No.
So we're in a big fight because Joe was trying to get all the limb salvage into the CFI, and so we were fighting with Jennifer,
Yeah. And
a couple, and some other folks were there, and I mean they're screaming in Vicky's office at each other, like standing up. You're doing this in a certain way. One of these things, and I'm just kind of like getting lower and lower in my chair. Vicky sneaks around and goes and turns the lights off in his office. And it's just like pitch dark. And everyone's just like, it shuts you up in a second. Like I try to use it on my daughters all the time now. And everyone's just looking around like, what the hell? And in the dark, you just hear Vicky say, "Are we done now?" And then he turns the light back on. And everyone just kind of walks out of the office.
Yeah. He's a good man. I think he has a lot of good techniques.
That's why he's running Hopkins now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming on, brother. And,
no way.
Let's get together and grab a beer. Just how much I love Kevin Kirk. I took my daughter for her little minor foot problem to him. So,
yeah, that's good.
I was one of those guys.
Yeah, we if you stop traveling as much, maybe we can get you out to a beer.
Now you sound like my wife. Stop traveling.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Thanks,
all right, brother. All right. Be well.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Owens Recovery Science Podcast. Owens Recovery Science is a single source for PTs, OTs, ATCs, DCs, MDs, and other medical professionals seeking certification in personalized blood flow restriction rehabilitation training. Find them online at owensrecoveryscience.com.